Hi guys, welcome to episode 166 of the Layton Fitness Podcast. Now in this specific podcast we'll be discussing the two options you can implement immediately after a binge. I know this is what a lot of people go through, and it's really important to note that this is perfectly normal. Everyone goes off track from time to time, whether they're in a phallus phase, a muscle building phase, or maintenance phase. It happens to me personally, happens to my clients, so you're not alone when this happens. So I think that's the first thing to really just appreciate and remember, that a lot of people, when they do go off track and they binge, they just assume that they're the only ones. They just presume that the people that look like they want to look like, they assume that they're hitting their calories and macronutrient targets all of the time. They assume that they don't go off track at all, and that's simply just not the case. So that's the first thing to remember. It's okay, it happens to everyone. Next thing to think about is one bad day in isolation really is not going to have a huge significant negative impact on your progress. It's important to note that an accumulation of bad days back to back will more than likely have a negative impact on your progress, and that therefore means that if you can kind of nip it in a bud after a day and just get back on track ASAP, it's unlikely to have a huge negative impact on your progress. Whereas if you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days back to back, that's really what's going to have a big negative impact on your progress. That's the next thing to think about. One bad day in isolation is unlikely to have a huge negative impact on your progress. So here's the two options you have when you go off track, whether it's in a phallus phase, muscle building phase. It really doesn't matter when you go off track in terms of binging, going over your calories and macronutrient targets within a particular day. The first option you have, which is pretty much what I'd suggest to most people, and this is what I'd suggest to my clients as well, and that's to basically just get back on track as normal the next day. Don't panic about the previous day, just forget it, and then just get back on track on the same protein, carbohydrate, fat and calorie targets you were following previously, and then most situations you'll be able to kind of minimize the damage. There won't be kind of any negative consequences within reason, of course. So that would be what I suggest to most individuals. Now the other option you have, which is slightly more advanced, but you can absolutely apply this, and that's to basically just appreciate that if your goal is fat loss, for example, the goal of fat loss is to create that calorie deficit over a chronic period of time, and therefore if you can create a calorie deficit over the course of the week, you're going to see fat loss progress. And therefore if your daily calorie targets are, let's say for example 2,000 calories, and therefore your weekly calorie target is 14,000 calories, because 2,000 times 7, that will give you a weekly calorie target of 14,000. So let's say for example on the binge day you have 4,000 calories, you go well off track. Well, what you can actually do is just consume those remaining 10,000 calories over the course of those remaining 6 days within the week. So hopefully that makes sense. So even though you're going over your calorie targets on one of the days, if you essentially make adjustments for the remaining 6 days within the week, and therefore at the end of the week you're still meeting that 14,000 calorie total, you're going to still be on track, and that's another option you have. So there's your two options. Now once again, most circumstances worth just focusing on option one, just getting back on track as normal. The reason why I say that is it just makes the process that much simpler, and if you're focusing on option two too often, then you can be in a position where you're just following different calories and macronutrients every single day, which really isn't necessary within a fat loss phase. It can just make it more complex than it needs to be, but that is one of the options to basically work out how many calories you're having over the course of the week, estimate how many calories you had on the binge day, and then consume those remaining calories you have left over the course of the 6 days, and therefore over that course of the week calories will be approximately the same and you can stay on track. So hopefully this has been useful. Hopefully this is kind of keep your mind at ease if you do go off track every now and again within a fat loss phase or muscle building phase or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Whenever you go well over your calorie targets, don't panic. That you've got a couple of options you can implement to get yourself back on track immediately. If you're still yet to subscribe to the podcast, please do so you don't miss an episode. And if you're still yet to download my free book, How to Set Up a Nutrition Plan, if you go to James Layton, Layton fitness.co.uk, you'll see a tab at the top of the page called free book, and you can download that immediately. And that will teach you how to set protein, carbohydrate, fat and calorie targets suitable for fat loss and muscle building. And I teach you how to make changes as well to bust through plateaus. I'll speak to you next week. Thank you very much.